Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Zahn Academy. I'm Fran Parathyrist, and I am from Zahn Dental Education. And today's webinar is Level Up with Keystone 3D Printing Applications. Our presenter today is Doug Statham. Doug is the Senior Director of Digital Materials for Keystone Industries. We'd like to make this webinar as interactive as possible, so we have prepared some polling questions for you. So please take advantage and give us your thoughts when we launch them. Doug will also be taking questions at the end of his presentation, so if you wouldn't mind typing them in at the Q&A portion at the bottom of your screen, that would be great. Everybody, here's Doug. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me here today, and hopefully I can give you some good information as to where we are as Keystone as a company, and also some of our products and the state of the industry when it comes to 3D printing. I'll start by just introducing myself. I've actually been in the dental space now for 23 years, most of those years being involved in some type of CAD/CAM dentistry. The early years I was actually with Noble Biocare in the guided surgery program that they had there, as well as the Procera custom abutments and crowns. They were one of the first companies next to CEREC that were involved in CAD/CAM and dentistry. And I realized then that this is kind of the future. Some of the other things I've been involved in is the CAD design software. I've worked with ExoCAD and 3Shape and a number of the other products that are out there now that many of us use every day to design these restorations. I've also been involved with CAM manufacturing, milling, and printing. I actually developed a product for surgical guides, and I'm working currently with just about every 3D printer that's involved in the dental business, aside from the closed systems that are out there like 3D Systems, and I think that's about it right now. And I specialize in 3D printing resins. That's what we do here at Keystone Dental in the dental space. Just a little bit more about the Keystone. It's not switching for some reason. There we go. Keystone is actually a global company. We actually provide over 4,000 products worldwide. Henry Schein and Zahn are a big supporter of Keystone and many of our products. All of our resin products are actually made here in the United States, down in Gibbstown, New Jersey, and over in Philadelphia. So all the materials are usually stocked and on the shelf. So lead times, unless we have a big rush, sometimes at the end of the quarter, we get a little bit behind, but we are usually flush with materials. So fulfillment is generally pretty easy. A little bit about the company when it comes to our resins. The company is actually over 100 years old, but we started the resin business back in 2016. We are a polymer company, so we're actually the largest provider of nail finishing products, which actually have a lot of polymer in them, and looking for other alternatives to use some of those technologies. And also having a dental company, we decided that we were going to move forward and come up with a 3D printing product for the dental space. So that's when this all started. From 2016 to 2018, we developed what has now become our product of 3D printing resins for dentistry. All of our resins that we make at Keystone for 3D printing are designed specifically for dental. So we do not work in any other industries at this point. So we are focused fully on dental solutions. Everything is designed and manufactured again here in the US, and we do have facilities across the globe for distribution. One of the cornerstones of what we do, and I think we probably do as good, if not better job than anybody else in the industry, is validation of our products, which I'm going to spend a little time on today, just to go through what actually is involved in the validations and why it's so important for both your businesses and for your patients and the end users. So prioritizing the patient safety is our number one concern. So all of our biocompatible materials meet all the different standards, whether it be in Canada or Europe, or especially here in the US. Just to emphasize where we are right now with 3D printing, I've brought a few of these statistics up, and really the point here is just to show you the growth opportunity within 3D printing. It's difficult in a Zoom or a webinar type setting to get a feel for how many of you are actually 3D printing, but this will just kind of give you the shape of the industry right now. they're expecting this industry to grow by 2028 to an $8.29 billion business. This is tremendous growth from where we started. I've been in 3D printing now in the dental space for more than 10 years, and where we started and where we are now is quite remarkable. The CAGR, which is really just an evaluation of how they're expecting the performance of a particular product in an industry, is at 25.2. Growth is year over year. So you can see where we are now compared to where we can expect to go is quite significant. So any of you that have not gotten involved in 3D printing, thinking that it may just be a temporary type solution for dentistry or a technology in dentistry, this is here now, and it's here to stay for years to come. So there's a lot of global growth is going on as well. Especially, we're seeing a tremendous amount of growth in South America and Latin America, where a lot of times they don't have access to a lot of the products that we have here in the United States. So this gives them a great alternative to be able to create some of those standard or state-of-the-art types of restorations in their facilities. Cost is also driving this. So if you are doing 3D printing, know a lot of times when you're actually creating a restoration using 3D printing, the cost to make those restorations is much less expensive. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm just going to touch a little bit on our validation and why it's so important to us. Keystone is actually profiling 3D printers on an ongoing basis, and I'll share some of the links that you can go to see about all of the different 3D printers that we're working with. But basically, anywhere from 30 to 40 printers at a time are going through a validation process at any given time. This ensures that all of our resins work reliably on all of these printers, and also preserve, patient safety and meet the standards of the different regulatory people out there right now that are overseeing the different materials to make sure they're patient friendly. We work with just about, as I mentioned earlier, every major brand of 3D printing out there. And now we're actually getting a lot of these smaller ones that are coming in, these desktop units that are coming into this space. And we're actually working with many of those as well. Each printer, the reason why we put so much time on this validation, each printer is slightly different. All of ours use either a 385 or a 405 projector, but each of these have different settings. Each of those projectors, although they're 385 or 405, they may require different settings. So it's really important that we go through each one of them to make sure we're getting the performance out of our materials and making sure we're optimizing the printer as far as its capabilities. Two different systems in 3D printing in the dental space. One is labs are required to have quality systems checks in place. And that's why it's so important to make sure that you're following the standards that are set by these validations in the governing bodies. Doctors are under a little bit different requirement. A lot of their liability falls under their insurance. So they aren't necessarily under the blanket of the quality systems checks, but they certainly are responsible for the outcomes with the patient. So they rely on these a lot too if they are doing any in-house printing. So what exactly is involved in the validation, and why is it so important? People think, well, okay, you get a material or a resin or a polymer and you just have it tested and make sure that it's not going to cause any issues with the patients, but it's much, much more than that. So basically the first step is actually the material. So we'll develop a material and we'll go through a series of tests. The biggest one really is the cytotoxicity of that. And basically they put it into a Petri dish, they put some fish eggs in there, and if the fish eggs hatch, then the material is considered patient safe. But that's really only just the first step of it. They are also considering what does the product look like as an end product. So I'll use the night guard as an example. So that as you've printed it now, you've post cured it and you washed it, so on and so forth, and you put it in a patient's mouth, is it still going to be safe? So all of these steps have to be covered. So the material again is done, the cytotoxicity testing is done, and then we print it. And this is where it becomes very time consuming for us, because we have, again, so many different printers, potentially 40 at any given time that are being tested for any materials. Each of those have different settings. So we actually have to go through and print each of our materials. So right now we have more than 10 different materials have to be tested on that particular printer and optimize whatever settings need to be made. And then we go through a cleaning process. This is a little more standardized. Most people are using a similar process on this, and isopropyl alcohol and some sort of wash solution, just to rinse off a lot of the residue when you get done printing. And lastly, in my opinion, one of the most important parts of this is the post-curing. If I've seen one area where it's very gray and how people are doing this, it is in the post-curing, and it actually probably causes more problems than any other part of this process. So please follow the instructions for post-curing. Make sure you're using a validated post-curing unit, because it will make a significant difference on the outcome of the product. So the products themselves are going to come out of the actual print process probably around 85% cured. So you want to make sure that when you're cleaning off all the residue, but also making sure that whatever is left on there is cured through the light curing process. So these are just some of the compatible resins that we're dealing with: the Key Model Ultra, which is our model material, all the way through the Tri-End material that was just released out here just a few months ago. And this is just a small sampling of some of our partners that we work with in the industry. So many of you will see, if you are 3D printing, that your manufacturer or OEM is on this list. If it's not, we're always bringing in new ones. If there's somebody that you think that we should be talking to, by all means, reach out to us and let us know. So the next part of this, I'm just going to go through a little bit about the process flow and what's involved in 3D printing if you're not 3D printing. And I want to go through some of the statistics as to what's driving 3D printing. The first part of this is obviously the digital impression. And I've been involved with digital impressions going back to the early days of the K-Dent, which was actually a privately owned company down in New Jersey. Many years ago. It has since been purchased by Align, but that was really one of the first intraoral scanners that came to the market. And the growth on it has been somewhat slow in the general dentist market. I will say on the orthodontic side, it has grown significantly. It's probably 65 to 70% of the orthodontists out there are using intraoral scanning. It's been a little bit slower adoption in the general dentist space. The overall market for the number of labs that are taking in has grown significantly, but early on, as you can see here, for digital files being sent to the laboratories, it was only 22%. Now, I actually was just reading a magazine today, and I was happy to hear that it's actually grown this year up to 35% of the general dentist offices out there now are using 3D printing. So that's one of the drivers that you're going to see why 3D printing is going to continue to grow and develop. So as you can see here, the list of them that are out there, the Trios is one of the biggest ones, but a lot of these technologies are very similar as far as their usability. We're seeing more and more of these entering in the market, like the 3D printers, but it is certainly a driving force behind 3D printing. The next part of this is the design services. Now, this is another thing which I was reading about earlier today too. The design services that are out there now, are the design softwares that are out there, the 3Shapes and the ExoCADs and the Dental Wings and so on and so forth. They're very capable softwares. Many of the laboratories are doing most of the designs in-house, but these design services are a great resource too. And Henry Schein has their own design services. So if you're not using the software yourself, or you have somebody who's out on vacation, these are great services that are out there now to provide you, an area where you can, if somebody's out on vacation, like I said, or someone's been let go, so on and so forth, you're able to replace those people with these services. The other thing I want to point out here is the number of applications that are available for design now. A lot of people thought early on, well, this is a model type procedure or a model design type printing, or that's what printing does. And it is in fact largely 3D models. But as this changes, as these applications become more usable, there's more usability tied to them, more and more of these different types of prints will start to grab hold. So you'll see more and more AI also getting involved in this. So the artificial intelligence, where somebody will send you an STL file, you want a single crown made, for instance, it'll actually design a crown in a very short period of time, and then you'll have to obviously go through and make sure that it is what you're looking to get. Again, just a little bit about the Henry Schein or the Zahn team's design service. This is a great opportunity if, again, you have a stopgap, just basically if somebody's out or if you're between employees, so on and so forth. This is a great resource. It varies in the amount of time it takes to get back to you. But again, it's a great resource for you guys to be able to use if you need design help. The next part of this is obviously the printing. And quite frankly, I've worked for two different OEM printers. Most of these printers are becoming very, very similar to one another. If there's one piece of advice I'll give you when you are purchasing a printer is the service and support you're going to get from a 3D printer. Most of them, the outcome is going to be similar, but if something does go wrong, and it will go wrong, you're going to want to make sure you're teamed up with a company that's going to provide you a good quality 3D printer. The printers that Henry Schein offers and Zahn offers, I have to tell you, they're some of the finest printers that we work with. Great support systems that they have in order to fix those problems when they do arise. One of the statistics that I put on here, just to kind of show you again the growth of this space, is the number of printers that particular offices or laboratories are going to have. When I first started with this, I couldn't imagine anybody having more than 1 or 2 printers. I have one customer who has 18 printers right now, and they're running around the clock 7 days a week on these different printers. We have one customer who's done over 24,000 night guards just last year alone. So the growth on this is significant, and you can see here 11% of the dental lab population out there has 5 or more printers. And really the landscape there looks like, you know, they might have one big production printer for models, but then they're going to have a variety of printers for different applications, whether it be night guards or surgical guides or some of the other applications that are available today. Just to talk about the partnerships that we have with these validations, this will just give you an idea of some of the people that we work with. This website that's on there, keystoneindustries.com/printers validation. You can go on there if you are shopping for a printer. It'll show you all the different printers that we work with. This is a great tool to understand the difference between an open and closed system. This is changing literally week by week right now. And as the mills were 10, 12, 14 years ago, many of them were closed systems. Now they are opening up. The 3D printing is opening up just like they did, because that's the nature of the business. As a consumer, you want to be able to have a machine that's going to provide you the flexibility to use as many resins, not just Keystones. I mean, we want you to use as many of ours as you can, but there is other ones out there that are great resources for you too. And you really want to find a printer that's going to give you that flexibility. The slide here, or the part of the slide to the right, this is going back to 2018, 2019, and this is how much the industry has grown. When we first started selling the resins, we had 5 printers that we worked with, and now we probably have closer to 45. So this is just in a 4-year period of time. You get a general idea as to how many printers have entered the market, but also some of the different resins that have adapted into this space as well. Believe it or not, dentistry is the #1 application for 3D printing in the world right now, if you can believe that. It's quite remarkable how the dental space is adapted to it. As far as the post-processing is concerned, the wash stuff is pretty standard stuff. We do sell a material that's for cleaning, isopropyl alcohol. So if you are looking for that, Schein or Zahn does carry that in their inventory. The auto flash stuff, it is, like I said earlier, one of the most pivotal parts of 3D printing, and I can't stress enough to invest in one that's going to work properly. We've seen all different kinds. In fact, I just had one come across our business this week where we're having trouble with it because of the light intensity, and just there's not a lot of flexibility in adjusting that light intensity. So we're having trouble post curing with it. So all of these that we work with, we will actually go through and test and figure out how long and what the light intensity needs to be in order to properly cure this. So again, this is a great resource for you if you're shopping for a post curing unit, or if you're not getting the optimal results out of the material. You can actually go to this website as well, or this link in our website, and it'll show you exactly how to set up that machine to optimize the different materials that we offer. So please follow the instructions in the IFUs that we provide, to get the best results. We just had one incident this morning where somebody's using our mass material and was having problems, and it turns out it was a setting issue. Again, this is a link that you can go to. And Zahn can provide you this, on their website as well. There's a link, and you can go through and you can see all of the different post-curing units that we work with and what those settings need to be. So now I'm going to transition a little bit into the actual materials that we provide. We have 2 different segments of the materials. We have the lab resins, and also the medical device biocompatible resins, which are also used in the lab too, but these are the materials that are going to be going into patients' mouths. Just to kind of give you an idea of what the market looks like and what's being printed, 94% of the prints that are being done right now are dental models, and that's largely skewed because of the orthodontic space and the number of models that are being printed for vacuum forms. The holy grail in printing for many years now has been to be able to print a clear aligner directly. I don't think that there's necessarily issues of being able to print it right now, but the post-processing of that and getting rid of all the support materials and finishing the product to the patient's needs is a difficult process and time consuming. So we haven't come up with a solution to that. So again, 94% of the cases that are being printed right now are going to be models. The second most printed item is a night guard, which is, I think that Keystone could take a lot of credit for that. When they introduced the Keystone soft split material, it really did revolutionize the way night guards are made, and in the growth that we've seen in that space has been tremendous. So just a year ago, this is the fourth most printed item, and now it's the second. So surgical guides, fortunately, is starting to grow again. Where there's a little bit of a lull there. I still am quite surprised by the number of surgical cases that are done without a surgical guide for implants. I started in this space 20 years ago when in actually 2002, we introduced the Noble Guide system. To think that that's 20 years old is remarkable, but at the same time, why more people aren't adapting to this. And I think we will, again, see continued growth in this space. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for design of these surgical guides. Some of these doctors may choose to do them in office, and there's a great opportunity for you folks to partner with your doctors. And we saw this with the milling. A lot of these doctors got involved with CEREC thinking they're going to be, saving all this money from the laboratories, but quite frankly, they're just doing single units. That is such a competitive market. There's not a lot of margin in it. If you partner with these folks and say, yeah, we understand. A lot of times these doctors are going to end up sending over their harder cases, which is really where there's better margins. Fourth one is the wax ups. Again, this was number 2 just a year ago. The wax ups is going to continue to grow as the quality of the materials improves, and we've had great success with this one too. Orthodontic aligners is, which again, a small percentage of the industry out there that's doing some of that now. So let's get started with some of our specific materials. This is our Keystone soft split material. It was really a revolutionary material when it was entered the market, because primarily what it is, it's a material that softens in the patient's body. If we want to take a moment here and just, I didn't notice we had these before, but did you want me to address any of these as we're going along?
We can definitely, I think I posted the wrong one, so we'll just do this one first. How are you fabricating your digital dentures? We'll do this one first, please, and then I'll get to the Keystone soft as far as who is actually has that in their offering as far as the mouth guards.
Okay. So back to the soft splint, it is a unique patent pending technology. You are seeing some other products similar to ours coming out. Come on.
Here we go. Are splints and mouth guards part of your lab's offerings? If you would please answer, thank you so much for participating.
So I can't advance my slide as long as that's up.
Okay. So far, it's looking like 100% of the people that are listening today are offering.
Okay, and I'll get into any of the reasons or many of the reasons why that is. Okay, so a little bit more specific about the Keystone soft. It combines the strength to protect the teeth with the added flexibility of better patient comfort. This patient comfort comes from the material softening in the patient's mouth as they wear it. So Many of the patients that have worn this have worn the traditional ones before. Compliance was always an issue. This is actually taking care of a lot of those compliance concerns. It is precise, it's strong, it's got a very smooth finish, and it's not brittle. A lot of the old, traditional processes of the vacuum form type ones created a brittle product where if it was dropped or bent or bit down on, it could shatter or break. This product, I can tell you, we have over 2 million placed in patients' mouths. We have not actually seen, I have not seen one fracture to date. It is very abrasion resistant. We have done significant tests or have had universities do significant testing on this. And just to give you an example on one, normally a test on this for abrasion type things would go through 200,000 cycles just to see how it wears against the opposing and adjacent teeth. We outperformed every other material on the market when that test was done, and it was an independent test, and they actually ended up running it 400,000 cycles, and we still outperformed the traditional type night guards that were out there or any competitive material in this space. The product is very easily polished. We do have a special polishing kit where I'll share with you in a few moments. But again, it's a normal procedure when it comes to that. It's very easily cleaned by the patient, no special instructions on that. It does have a 3-year shelf life. This product, in most instances, I'm seeing people go through it very rapidly, so this may not come into play when it comes to the soft split material, but all of our materials that we provide at Keystone are a 3-year shelf life. This does make a lot of difference depending on how much of a particular material you might be using. We do offer the longest shelf life out there. So it is a great thing to have if small applications in there you're not doing a lot of. It also has long-term color stability. So if you have your wine drinkers and coffee drinkers out there that are wearing this, it will maintain its integrity as far as the shading or the color of the material. The formulas do not require a nitrogen-free post-curing unit. The only printer that did require this was the carbon. Now we're releasing all of the materials to all of our printing partners that want them. So there's not going to be an exclusivity when it comes to that, which I'll touch on in a moment. So again, we comply with all the international and in the US standards as far as the FDA and whatnot. So what is the value proposition and why is this such a popular product? This will just give you a kind of a snapshot of what that looks like. So this price has actually gone up a little bit, like everything else these days. The 4 1/4, I think it's up to 442 right now. But still, even with those prices, the profitability of this is significant. So you can see here, just out of a 5-day work week, if you're just doing a few of these a week, you're talking roughly about $5,000 of profit per week. If you multiply that out throughout the whole year, just off of making soft splints, it could be nearly $250,000. And I believe this is just 10 splints a day. So 3 years ago, 10 splints a day might have seemed excessive, but nowadays we're seeing, like I said, I have one customer who did 24,000 of them last year alone. So the other benefit to this too is the doctors are also prescribing these more and more often. There's a great margin for them too. So if you're selling these things for $125 a piece to the doctor, they're selling them anywhere from $400 to $500 to the patients. This isn't necessarily a covered insurance coverage on this, so they are getting cash payments for these. And the ones that they do have coverage through the insurance, they actually charge even more than $500. So there's a lot of profitability for the doctors in order to prescribe these. And it's a great resource for the patients too. We've actually seen some doctors who have seen an increase in referrals from patients who are using this. So they've actually found it to be much more comfortable than the traditional ones. And they're referring their family and friends to a doctor just to get this particular product, which obviously can lead to other things. We also now offer the Keystone Splint Hard. When we first introduced this, I wasn't sure what the growth numbers were going to look like. I'm quite surprised with this. There are still some people that are very reluctant to use, as it's been named, soft splint. They think it may be too soft for a patient, especially a bruxer. But this material has actually done very well for those people who may not feel that a soft splint is the appropriate one for somebody who has a tough bite. Again, I have not seen any of these break, but for those of you who are looking for a hard one, or hard soft or a hard material for a night guard, this is certainly an alternative for you. So this was also done, the study was done, a wear study was done on this, but also the performance of this product. And one of the things with the hard splint, again, is the brittleness of that product and sometimes it being shattered. The hard splint is actually 2.5 times more flexible, which means what we refer to in the resin business is elongation of break, which basically you put it in a machine and bend it and see how far it'll go before it breaks. So it's much more pliable than some of the other competitors that are out there as far as a hard splint material, and especially when it comes to traditional hard splints. So if you're not using if you're doing a hard splint the traditional way, this is a great resource for you to now to 3D print it. Again, we went through the same abrasion resistance as we did the other products, or the soft splint product, and it performed. It was basically a mirror result to what we had with the soft splint. So the next material is the key guide material. This is, again, the fourth or the third leading print application that's out there. We offer the surgical guide material, and there is differences between surgical guide materials. The biggest difference being, quite frankly, is the taste and the smell. And it was some of our competitors that were out there, patients were complaining of both of those things. So this one also offers a great elongation of break as well. If you're using a guide material, sometimes if you go to put it in the patient's mouth, obviously you're drilling through it. There has to be a small amount of flexibility to it in order to ensure it doesn't shatter. And this one does offer it. It actually prints very, very cleanly. One of the biggest issues with printing a surgical guide is getting those sleeves to fit properly. There's usually a small shelf around the occlusal surface that it needs to slide down into and fit precisely in there. The surgical guide is only as precise as that sleeve is going to fit in there. And this does a terrific job at a nice clean print that allows those sleeves to fit snugly in there in being able to build that surgical guide without having to make any changes to it with a burr. The next one is the indirect bonding tray material. The indirect bonding tray material, this is kind of like where surgical guides was 10 years ago. This isn't a widely used material. I do have 2 customers. One of them is doing about 1,000 of these a day. It's an orthodontic laboratory, but this is an application where orthodontists actually are able to put the brackets into this device and carry it to the patient's mouth and light cure right through it. This cuts down the chair time for orthodontics or bracket placement by 2/3. So what typically might take an hour and a half can actually go down as much as 2.5 hours. So this is a great material because it really is flexible. So when you go to peel it off, once you have the brackets on or light cured to the teeth, it peels off very evenly and very easily. It doesn't have that odor or taste that some of our competitors had, especially 3D Systems. Their material was not very precise and it did have a terrible taste to it. And again, it adds the flexibility to be able to go over and put this onto the teeth, but also being able to be peeled off of the teeth. So this is, if you're not doing applications in orthodontics, it might be something you consider. This is a great opportunity to talk to some of these doctors about that. It is a growing application because of the time savings that it provides the orthodontist and or some general dentists now. So next, I'll just get into some of our lab materials. First of all, our try-in material. This was a product that was introduced just a few months ago. We have it in the A1, the B1, and the B4 shades. This is a great material if you're doing removables, just as for a try-in for your doctors. The removable market, I think, probably offers more opportunity than any other part of 3D printing in the dental space. I think you're going to see this grow tremendously. It is currently in the growth phase where we're actually the aesthetics of these products are still somewhat limited, but the overall strength, I think we've seen it with the materials that are out there right now. They're not breaking. Well, you see all these videos of people driving over it with trucks and dropping it off of buildings and everything else, and it's not breaking, it's not brittle. But as we continue to move forward into this space, this try-in material, I think, is going to be a very good resource for both the laboratory and the doctors to ensure these removable cases fit. especially for instance, if in these particular instances, as this sales piece shows you, it actually for implant cases, you want to make sure that the restoration is going to fit properly. So if you put the implants in and you put this on and they all line up and everything looks good, it gives the patient an indication as to what the final restoration is going to look like. If they agree with everything that they see, it's easily sent back to the laboratory and you can go ahead and complete the case. This is not an expensive product to print. If you look at some of the other materials that are out there right now, they're $800 or $900 a kilo. I believe this one is about $249 for a kilo. So you can actually make these things very inexpensively. I also am seeing some of the doctors that are actually printing these in-house, and that may not make you happy, but this is where I think some of these design features would be a great resource for a laboratory. If a doctor is printing some of this themselves, if you guys do the design and send it over to them, the likelihood of you getting that final denture case or that final screw retained case on an implant case is very, very, very high. The statistics are, in the 80s to 90% of those cases are coming back to the laboratory for that final restoration, which is, as we all know, where the real money is going to be. The key tray for custom trays. Again, I don't see a ton of this being used. We do have a couple of customers that are doing 200-300 of these a week. A little bit more in office, I would say, at this point for some of the doctors that want to do custom trays. This is a really simple way to do that in office. But obviously, this is a very inexpensive product to print, and it's very easy to design. So we do offer the key tray material. The wax-up material, as I mentioned earlier, is the fourth most printed application that is offered in 3D printing. So we do offer this. The one tribute that this usually gets is its ease of burnout and the cleanliness of the burnout. So the customers that are using this have found it to be very predictable and reliable, which is what a lot of people are looking for in their wax materials, but obviously in this burnout material, which is basically a printed wax. The next one is the Key Model Ultra. This has taken dentistry by storm. We intentionally priced this at a very low price. You can see here that it's only $79 a kilo. Comes in two shades, both ivory and light gray. It actually, this material prints at a very high speed as well, on especially on certain printers. We found it to be much more, would I put this? It's a much quicker print than even the OEM materials on their printers for model materials. So this is a very fast print. It doesn't have what I call topography lines. It has a very, very smooth finish. So if any of your labs are doing clear liners or vacuum forms on any of these, it doesn't have those lines, or not as many of the lines in the clear liners that you're printing. And it, again, prints very, very predictable, very, very reliable. When it comes to making models in the years that I've been doing it, that's where I find what the customer is really looking for. They want to be able to put a print on before they leave at the end of the day and come in and know that it's going to be done and not have to redo it. This material can offer you that reliability. So again, it's only $79 a kilo compared to many of our customers that are in the $150, $60, even $80 a kilo. It was priced that way on purpose because we realized that this is a commodity product. So if you are doing a lot of models, there potentially is a significant savings here by switching over to this. It is being validated on more and more printers every day. Many of the OEM printers are reluctant to let us validate it on there because they obviously realize that they're going to be losing some of their revenue on this. But as time goes by, people are losing printer sales because they really want to be able to use this material. So we've just signed on Desktop Health recently. They will be offering this on their printer as well as all of our materials. Hopefully by the end of the year, those validations will all be completed. The mask material, this stuff is primarily used for implant restoration. It's a great way to actually get the emergence profile for any of the implants. So again, this material is very predictable when it comes to printing, and it's a very useful resource when you're going to be doing implant cases. And then just the last couple of items are accessory items. These are just some of the tools that you might need for cleaning and maintaining your equipment on the 3D printers, and also the isopropic alcohol for cleaning the actual printed restoration or item. And lastly, we do offer delivery packaging for any of these cases. So if you're printing models or night guards or surgical guides, we do offer packaging that you can buy from us to send those over to your doctors. And then this is the polishing kit that I mentioned earlier. You can buy this from Zahn as a one item, a single item number, which all of this equipment will be provided in that, or you can buy it individually as you need it. There's also a great video on our webpage that'll give you the full instructions on how to optimize the clarity of this night guard, whether it be the clear splint or the soft splint material. The videos are on there. The process is the same. So we already talked about that. And then just a few coming items. We have temporary teeth coming, which we have the try-in material now, but the temporary teeth is going to be very similar to that material. It just needs to go through FDA. The denture-based material, we were going to introduce this more than a year ago, and we held back because we didn't want to come out with just a Me Too product. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of these denture materials, they have the strength characteristics that we'd all want in a denture as far as it not shattering, but many of them are very bland when it comes to the aesthetic. So we are coming out with a more aesthetic type material, and it will also offer that strength. We're also going to offer a cosmetic kit for the soft tissue area, those removable cases, and the tooth material as well. So you will be able to make a more realistic removable restoration. And then the last thing is the clear liners, as I mentioned earlier. I think that it is kind of the holy grail, but until we get something figured out with the post-processing of all those clear liners, that's when it'll finally come to market. So my contact information here, 603-777-7182. I'm up in New Hampshire. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call or reach out to me by email. I do travel a fair amount, so email generally works better than giving me a call. I do try to get back as quickly as possible, but sometimes being on airplanes limits that. So at this point, I'll open it up if anybody has any questions.
We do, Doug. We have two questions.
Okay.
So the first is, are the key splint hard or soft acrylic compatible? Can they be repaired?
Yes, you can use your traditional methods to repair either one of those. Traditional acrylic materials will adhere to it.
Okay, and our next is, are the key splint material compatible with Formlabs printer?
No, Formlabs is an SLA printer, so it uses a laser process to do it. We have worked with Formlabs in the past. It's one of the limitations that Formlabs has. It is a terrific printer. I know that printer well. It has, for certain applications, it's terrific. It tends to be a little slow, but it does not have the flexibility to be or to use any type of polymer resin that's out there, just because of the way they use a laser to cure the material.